Today we will take a look at Sony A6400. The reason why I'm reviewing the A6400 now is that after the announcement of A6100 and A6600, we basically know all of the choices that are available in this category. So besides the review of A6400, I will also compare it a little bit to other options in this price category. We will take a look at the performance and feature set of this camera, and I will try to help some of you decide whether it is the best choice for you. I will also make a full comparison with Fuji X-T30 later on. Starting with the physical aspects, I kind of forgot how small these A6000 series cameras are. A6400 is just 12 cm wide, 6.7 cm tall, and it weighs just 400 grams. Just like other A6000 series cameras, it is very small and very light for what it does. The build quality is very good. It feels very solid, it uses magnesium frame, the rubberized surface is very nice, and I can say that it feels quite premium. It is probably the second best camera in terms of the build quality after Panasonic G95 or G90. That is mostly because it has some degree of weather protection, but it is not fully weather sealed. Vloggers will also appreciate forward-facing screen, which is an upgrade over A6500 and A6300. A6400 uses the same 24.2 megapixel sensor as the A6500, so I can't really tell you anything new here. It is still a very good sensor, it captures a lot of dynamic range, so it gives you a lot of options in post-production. Both highlight and shadow recovery is still great with this sensor. The images are very clean up to ISO 1600, ISO 3200 is also completely fine in most cases. ISO 6400 is still usable in low dynamic range scenes, and for digital publishing you can even use ISO 12800. The sharpness is also great, and 24 megapixels is in my opinion still the best choice for all-round hybrid camera. To be honest, I really wanted to see Sony's excellent IMX571 26 megapixel backside illuminated sensor in Sony camera. That one performs great in Fuji X-T3 and X-T30. It is definitely the best sensor in class, so it is a shame that we won't see it in Sony camera anytime soon. What was improved over the A6500 though is the color science. It is a time to acknowledge that bad Sony colors are a thing of past. Newest Sony cameras and Fuji cameras with X-Trans 4 actually produce the most accurate colors of all cameras on the market. The colors out of the camera are great on A6400, very well balanced, I like the amount of saturation, so the color science is a big strength of A6400. I'm also very happy with the exposure metering and automatic white balance on A6400. Just like the colors, it is very neutral, so I rarely change color temperature in post unless I want to achieve a specific look. Basically, the only downgrade in comparison with A6500 is the lack of in-body image stabilization. A6500 has the least effective in-body image stabilization of all cameras that I have tested though, so if you use stabilized lens, there is actually very little difference. It would still be nice to have it in A6400 because it helps with non-stabilized primes, mainly the Sigma 16mm f1.4, but I don't miss it that much. Mostly unchanged is also the handling. Considering the size of this camera, I am still happy with the physical controls. It still has two dials and pretty well positioned custom buttons. Basically, the only thing that I don't like is the video recording button. Fortunately, you can use shutter button to start video recording in movie mode. That is a big upgrade over A6500. The grip is fairly small and shallow, but again, it is a good compromise between the portability and the handling. It actually holds reasonably well, and I also like the material on the grip. A6600 will have larger grip to accommodate the Z battery, so the handling will be better, but at the cost of the larger size. The user interface is still not very good. It is complicated and not very well structured. It also still can't be controlled using the touchscreen at all. There are some things that help a lot here. The first one is fully customizable function menu or quick menu, and the second one is customizable my menu. Thanks to those, you don't need to use the menu that much. There are also 3 custom modes that I use for slow motion. After some time, it is possible to get used to Sony menu system, and it is not that big of a pain to use if you know the ways around it. There are also some improvements over the A7 III, like the graphic guide for function buttons or the possibility to see ISO value all the time while shooting video. Honestly, I was expecting completely new touch to optimize menu in 2019, and I'm quite surprised that we won't see that. Regarding the autofocus, that is the best thing about this camera. It is basically perfect. It still uses 425 face detection points like the A6500, but it also uses 425 contrast detection points, whereas the A6500 only uses 169 contrast points. Sony claims that this is the fastest autofocus system on the market, with 0.02 second focus acquisition time, and I do believe that. It is really crazy fast and 100% accurate with no hunting at all. Real-time tracking works great as well. It just won't lose the subject no matter what. In video it works just as well, but it is important to set the autofocus track sense and try speed according to your preferences. It can be super fast if you want to, or it can be very smooth. By the way, if you want to track something while shooting video, you need to set the function of touch operation to touch tracking in the menu, and then you can use a touch screen for tracking. That also works in stills. Overall, the autofocus is a huge strength of A6400. It is the best autofocus of all cameras that I have tested so far. Regarding the video, that is mostly the same as with the A6500 with some nice improvements. Generally, I can say that the A6400 has great video quality. It shoots proper 4K video downsampled from 6K because it uses the whole sensor in 24 and 25p. The amount of detail is great, and in this regard it is still the best camera in category together with Fuji X-T30. One of the biggest strengths of A6400 for me personally are Sony's picture profiles. If you follow this channel, you probably know that I am a huge fan of S-Gamut 3 Cine color mode in combination with Cine 4 Gamma setting. This is my most favorite semi-flat footage out of any camera brand. Video with picture profile off looks great as well, so if you don't want to color grade your video, A6400 can provide great video out of the camera. The only problem is the rolling shutter. That is almost as bad as with A6500, so pretty bad. It is not that big of a deal for vlogging and that kind of videos. If you are doing something serious, you can use rolling shutter repair in post, which usually completely fixes the issue. A big improvement over the A6500 is that the recording is unlimited, although it could be hacked on A6500 as well. It also doesn't overheat while shooting 4K, so that is an improvement as well. There is no 10-bit and no 4K 60p recording, but that is still not a standard in this category, so I can't blame it for that. A6400 is also the only camera in the category that gives you proper 120 frames per second video instead of slowed down 30p. You can also record 120p with autofocus, audio recording and manual settings. A6400 uses the same 3-inch 921,000 dot display as the A6500. A huge upgrade over A6500 is that it doesn't dim when you switch to 4K video mode. This screen has 16:9 ratio, so it is optimized for shooting video. The sharpness, colors and the brightness are good, so I think that it is perfectly fine for this category. I also think that the touch responsiveness and the sensitivity is much better. Besides that, you also have an option to use touch shutter. As I mentioned, A6400 screen can be faced forward, and this is probably my most favorite way to do that. The extra hinge doesn't require any extra space and the frame is very solid. I'm not the biggest fan of rotating screens because I don't like to look to the side. This solution also provides better options for holding the camera when you are filming yourself. Basically, the only disadvantage is that it is blocked by external mic if you use it, but you can get a small rig plate and relocate the cold shoe. The viewfinder is completely the same as with the A6500. The magnification is 0.7 times, which is very solid. The resolution is 2.36 million dots, which is also good for the category. It can also go up to 120 frames per second refresh rate, which is great. A6400 can also shoot 11 frames per second with mechanical shutter, continuous autofocus, and auto exposure, which is very good. The buffer can store 46 RAWs, which is also very good. Unfortunately, the A6400 still uses UHS-1 card slot, so the buffer clearing is pretty slow, which is a real shame. A6400 uses the same NP-FW50 batteries as the previous models, so the battery life is obviously not great, you already know that. Especially if you shoot 4K, you definitely want to have a couple of batteries on you. The upside is that the batteries are very small and there is a great choice of third-party batteries that are very cheap. Sony A6600 will use larger Z batteries, so I am looking forward to that. The batteries can be charged through USB, but it still uses micro USB port. In 2019 it should have been USB-C like on X-T30, so that is a shame as well. I bought the A6400 in kit with 18 to 135mm f3.5 to 5.6 kit lens. It is a super zoom, so the optical performance is not super impressive, but the size and the versatility of this lens are super impressive. It is also stabilized, so it is a great match for A6400 and intended purposes, but I will make a separate video about this lens. Sony has also launched highly anticipated 16 to 55mm f2.8 lens. The problem is that A6600 with 16 to 55 f2.8 costs as much as A7 Mark III with Tamron 28 to 75mm f2.8, and that combination is just in another league. One of the main reasons why I bought the A6400 is to get more reach from my full-frame lenses, especially the 24mm f1.4, which will provide the same results as 36mm f2.1 on full frame, so it is kind of like getting two lenses at the price of one. E-mount has really good lens selection, and I believe that now there is enough options even for the APS-C E-mount, but I will talk about that in a separate video. So what about the A6600? In comparison with A6400, you will basically gain the in-body image stabilization, Z battery, and the headphone jack. The thing is that I can forgive the A6400 a lot, because at that price point it competes with Fuji X-T30, Canon EOS M6 Mark II, and Panasonic G95. The problem is that A6600 price puts it in Fuji X-T3 territory, and the X-T3 destroys A6600 in a lot of categories. A6600 still makes sense to a certain group of users. I am a member of one such group, and that is Sony A7 III owners. I will be getting the A6600 as a B camera to my A7 III to have the extra reach with full-frame lenses, at least some stabilization, and also to be able to use the same batteries as with A7 III. It also has better handling, so it is in my opinion very good B camera for Sony A7 III. Having said that, majority of people will be better off with Fuji X-T3 or Sony A7 III. I will try to make a full comparison with Fuji X-T30, but I can say that these are pretty closely matched. X-T30 has better sensor, A6400 has better autofocus, and neither has in-body image stabilization. A6400 has unlimited video recording, X-T30 has double the bitrate and external 10-bit 422, but also 10-minute recording limit. A6400 has forward-facing screen and better build quality, but the X-T30 has joystick and better user interface. You probably get the point, both are great cameras with different advantages, so that should be an interesting comparison. If I compare it with Panasonic G95, that one has very good in-body image stabilization and weather sealing, which are the two main advantages. It uses smaller micro four thirds sensor, but it still shoots great stills. Major disadvantages of G95 in comparison with A6400 and X-T30 are 1.26 times crop in 4K video and subpar contrast-based autofocus system. It is also significantly larger than A6400, but it has the best handling and user interface in class. In my opinion, it is a very good stills camera, but for video I would choose something different because of that autofocus and 4K crop. Canon recently announced the M6 Mark II, which should be a direct competitor of A6400. It has new 32.5 megapixel sensor, but unfortunately it seems like it shoots heavily pixel binned 3K video that is being upscaled to 4K if you don't want good old cropped 4K. I will try to test that one. I am very curious about that new sensor, although I admit that my expectations are not very high. To sum up, I can say that I am generally happy with A6400. It doesn't use all of the Sony's newest technology, but it still performs very well. It shoots great 4K video, beautiful stills, and it has the best autofocus of all cameras that I have ever tested. It is very small and lightweight. It also fixes a lot of the issues that I had with A6500. It is probably the best 4K vlogging camera under $1,000. I can recommend it for enthusiast hybrid shooters and also as a B camera for Sony full-frame owners. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope that you liked this video and that you found it to be useful. Stay tuned for more videos and maybe consider subscribing if you don't want to miss my future content. I appreciate your feedback in form of thumbs up or thumbs down. If you would like to ask anything or share your opinion, please do so in the comment section, and see you next time.